Hello and welcome to the Point to Rise show. This is your host, Susanne, former international ballerina that found her passion in mindset, business, and technology, and is today the founder of Rise Media. It is my purpose to use all the experiences of my past to create a better, financially sustainable future for the performing arts industry. And that starts with every single one of us. I believe that being you is your superpower. And I am here to guide you, empower you, inspire you, and give you all the resources you need to rise above what you think you're capable of. Every week, I'll bring you 3 shows featuring guests, collaboration, and mini episodes to ensure that you have the support in your journey as a performer. I want you to know that you are not alone. Stop chasing and start creating. Your success starts now, here with you. So let's go. Well, she is back in the house, back on this podcast. My dear friend, Jillian Murphy, the sales queen. Love, thank you so much for being back here. I have been looking forward to this connection call for quite some time.
I am so happy to be back here. You know, there's only a few podcasts that I've ever been like a second guest on. So I'm like, so grateful to be back. And I feel like we just get to like hang out together for this hour and record a podcast. So it's like a bonus.
Yeah. So hang tight. There might not be anything that's adding to your day, but our conversations are always very colorful.
Yeah. You might just get to listen to us hang out for an hour and talk about who knows what.
Right. But don't tune out. Don't do that. So let me start with, and I have shifted asking my guests, like who they actually are behind or on the other side of all the descriptions that are on their Instagram profile, in their bio, in their short description. Like who's Jillian Murphy beside the sales queen that went from $0 to $500,000 in 18 months? That's helping coaches to get more clients. Like who are you?
I'm a mom to an amazing human. I'm a dog mom. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a good-hearted person. I'm someone who's obsessed with community. Who am I? I don't know. I would say that's a pretty good description of who I am. I'm actually going to flip the script. Who does Susanne think I am?
Oh, that's the first. Okay.
Let's flip it.
I think you're a very resilient human being. I think you're giving. I think you're very loving. You have a huge heart. I think you never take no for an answer. And I have the fondest memory hanging out with you on the porch in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh my gosh. So I love you so much. There's a country song right now. I can't think of the name of it, but they're always like, we will always have Foley Beach. And every time it comes on, I like turn it on. I'm like, Susanne, this is our song.
Well, it sure is. You got to send it to me, girl.
I will. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been almost 9 months since you've been here, and we talked a lot about what actually has gotten you to coaching online coaches, building the community. Is there something, and I'm sure there is, like the top 1, top 3 things that you see, and I want to preface this. Online coaches are no different than performing artists. We all have to sell ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're selling something, we're creating something for other people to either do better, feel better, or become better. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the 3 common things that you have seen over the past, 2 years now, actually, that are a common thread that are actually in the way for people putting themselves out there and being comfortable with selling whatever it is they're selling.
So the number one thing that is costing people money all the time is their mindset. And I'm actually doing a whole presentation on this tomorrow. It's really the mindset, and it's the fear. And that breaks down to so many things. It's the fear of showing up. It's the fear of embarrassment. It's the fear of rejection. It's the fear of, will I make somebody upset? There's so many layers of that fear, and we don't actually even realize it, because when I actually ask people, how's your mindset around sales? They say, great, I don't have any mindset issues. And then I say, do you have any fear around sales? And a lot of them will say, well, I just have a fear of being salesy. That's usually what I hear. But there's actually so many deeper things that actually comes to it. And we actually don't even really realize. So for an example, like the fear of embarrassment, that's actually linked to, well, what if I don't sell out my next launch? What if nobody buys? What if I put out a masterclass and nobody shows up? What if I start a podcast and nobody listens? So it's actually so much deeper than even that. So that's actually one thing that really has to shift when it comes to sales.
Okay, I want to add something to that. A, because I've been in that place before. And B, I think we underestimate that fear of, embarrassment, that fear of not selling out, the fear of not having something to show for. Actually goes even a layer deeper, because then we are yet again shown that we can't do it, we are unworthy. It brings up all the shame that we carry. And I think, and thank you for bringing that up and for diving so much deeper into that, because mindset, in my opinion, is everything and anything and everything that we're doing in our lives.
It's so true. So even yesterday, it's like a great example. So I just started taking golf lessons and I'm not good at it. I just started, I'm not good. And even yesterday we were at the driving range, and my boyfriend and I were hitting golf balls, and I threw my club. I have a temper. I threw my club and I got frustrated. And he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, if you haven't realized, I don't like doing things that I'm not good at. And it brought it right back to that fear of not being good enough, fear of embarrassment, because now I'm at the driving range and I'm thinking, are people judging me? Are people looking at me? I'm embarrassed because I'm missing the club. And we so often don't want to do things that we are not good at. And you know what I said to him? Why do you think I love to work so much? Because I'm good at it. Why do you think I love to be on my Instagram stories? Because I'm good at it. Why do you think I like to go to the gym? Because I'm good at it. We tend to want to do the things that we're good at because we're good at it and it feels good. But the things that don't feel good, we don't want to do it. So again, if like sales or all those things don't feel good, we don't want to do it. So it's huge. And it's like, once you really break that down, it's so much deeper. Again, it goes into those layers, and it's stopping us from showing up on our stories, showing up from pricing our offers. I mean, it's even, oh, I don't want to tell somebody my price because I might be embarrassed of what they say, or yeah, it really goes deep. So I think that's a huge thing when it comes to why people aren't showing up. Another thing is most people have never really been taught sales. They've never acquired the skill. So sales is an art. There's an art to communication. There's an art to negotiation. There's an art to marketing. And most people have never been taught it. So it doesn't feel good to them. I did a presentation today in our good friend Jess Bergio's program. And one of the girls said, I don't know how to sell. It just feels awkward. And I said, of course it does. And you're 100% normal. We are never taught how to sell. So we just think because someone's extroverted or they know how to talk that they're good at sales, and they're actually not. So that's another thing I think that stops people from selling a lot of times.
When you say we don't like to do things that we're not good at, does that mean that we could actually be good at it? Or could there potentially be a point where we're just going to say, hey, that's not my superpower, and I'm not going to invest more time into it, and I'm going to hire somebody else to do that job?
Yes.
Loaded question, but yeah, go ahead.
I think if it's something that you like, let's take golf for an example. How long am I going to try this and then just be like, I'm not a golfer. One, I'm not enjoying it. It's not fun. It's costing me money, and I'm actually not having fun. So there are things you're not going to be good at everything. So there does come a point that you have to be like, time out. This is not fun and I'm not enjoying it. Or flip it to the business world. You are not going to be great at everything. So for an example, maybe it's graphics, maybe it's podcast editing, maybe it's your books, maybe it's financing. You're not going to be good at everything. And if it's not bringing you joy or income and it's something that you don't want to do, I 100% say stop, go focus on the things that you're good at and let somebody else do it. Because guess what? There's a lot of people that like to make graphics or like to podcast edit or like to do your books or do those things. And then you can stay in your zone of genius. You're not going to be great at everything.
And that's okay, right?
And that's 100% okay.
Okay, now let's apply that to sales, and let's go a little bit into the psychology of sales.
Mm-hmm.
So there are so many stories out there in terms of, I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to be sold to. Selling is bad. There's so many crooks out there.
Mm-hmm.
Go a little bit into like, what is selling something for you? What are you teaching your clients, and how do they see the success when they switch that 1, 2, 3 things in their mind?
Yeah. So I usually ask people like, first thing I say is, what does being salesy even mean to you? And then they say, well, it's being like aggressive, and it's being gross, and it's being pushy, and it's being like conniving and in like just convincing somebody. So then I say, do you feel that that's how you're selling? And they say, no, I could actually never be like that. So if you could never be like that, then I guarantee you're not being salesy. So first of all, let's even just define what salesy is, because you actually can't even be salesy because you don't even have it in you. So I think for the first thing is like really identifying what salesy is, and is that even what you're portraying? Because it's not. So really getting clear of like, what is salesy? The second thing is really flipping the switch of, why are you selling? Are you really sold on what it is that you're selling? Are you a believer in it? Do you believe in your core that you can help somebody, right? If you're selling a water bottle, if you're selling coffee, if you're selling lip gloss, you're selling leggings, you're selling $100,000 coaching. It doesn't matter to me if your program's $100,000 or it's $1. It doesn't matter. Are you sold on what it is that you do? Because when you're sold on it, then that's also when you flip the script. And you now are so bought in to that you can help somebody. I'm going to give you a really great example. I know that I'm an amazing sales coach. I know that I can transform lives at the price point in which I sell. If somebody said to me, Jill, charge $100,000 for your services, I would not be sold on that. So I would not be able to sell that because I am not sold on it. So you have to be your first sale on whatever it is that you're selling. So make sure that you're confident and you're bought in to whatever it is. And then thirdly is, if you can help somebody and you can truly educate them on how to help them, then you are not being salesy, you're not being pushy, you're not being aggressive, but we overcomplicate it. I want you to think like you have water and your ideal client is thirsty. Regardless of whatever your product is, if somebody's thirsty and you have water, you're simply saying, you're thirsty and I have water. It's no different than, you're not good at sales, I can help you sell. You're not good at finances, I can do your books. You have a bad mindset, I'm a mindset coach. Like that's literally all that you're doing. We so often complicate it, and it's literally as simple as, you struggle with this and I can help you. Are you interested?
That's it, right? Now I know, and I'm part of your community. I want to talk a little bit about the importance of community. Twofold. A, because I see that is actually a huge miss that the performing arts doesn't understand, A, how to and why it's important, as B. And B, I have learned after many, many years, not many years, a few years now, with being surrounded by community, how important it is to have one. So can you go into how you started, why you believe community is of the essence, and how it's supporting you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one is, well, I'm going to go back to the psychology of sales. So there's 10 reasons why people buy. And reason number 4 why people buy is because they want to be part of something. They want to feel a sense of belonging, and they want to be part of something that's bigger than them, and it's a part of a movement. So I knew that going into sales, because obviously I'm a sales coach. So I knew that I wanted to create a community because I was going to be selling at some point. So I wanted to create a community because one, it's one of the top 10 reasons why people buy. So community is so big, and just psychologically, people buy to be part of movements, communities. There's a sense of belonging. And now more than ever, unfortunately, people crave community more than anything. People have been stuck in their houses. The world's divided. People, like, there's just more reason why people want community even more than anything, even more than 5, 10, 15 years ago. So I knew that going in, and I knew that that was going to be a huge part of me. Also, just me as a human, I'm obsessed with community. I love community. I love being part of something. So selfishly, I thought, if I'm going to come online, I want people around me. So that was why I did it. Secondly, if you have a community, you always have two things. One, people to ask questions to. What do you need? What do you want? How can I help you? What are you struggling with? So you have built-in market research all the time. And then number two, as good or bad as it sounds, I always have a pool of people if I need to sell something to. And some people might say, well, that's bad. You are selling to your community. You're all selling to your community. You're selling to social media. You're selling to Facebook, but I have my community in front of me. So one, I ask my audience what they need, and then I go and create it. And guess what else happens? Because I have a community, they all rally together and they all stay together. So I'll give you a great example of this. I just launched a mastermind 3 weeks ago. I literally went from idea to execution, and I had over a 6-figure launch because one, I asked my audience, what do you want? They're right in front of me. I didn't have to go find a bunch of strangers. Two, I offered it right there in front of me. And as they started to join, the community was like, I want in, she's joining. Oh, my bestie's in there. Oh, she's joining. Like, the community helped sold it together. I would get on calls and she'd be like, oh my God, I just got off the phone with Gloria, and she joined and she was telling me, like, the community sold it for me. So it's so, so, so important. But this is also something that I see. People try to, like, come into other people's communities and almost like, I don't know the right word for it, but like sell in that community. And I'm all for like community over competition. That's not what I'm saying, but it's super important that you build your own community, because people are always going to buy from like that leader first, right? So even like me, I've been in other communities where I'm like, this is annoying. Like, why are they buying from him or her? Because it's their community. And they will always be loyal to that person. So you need to find your own community, because those people will be your ride or dies. My business that I have built has been built on like a core group of people, and they have helped like build that business. And then again, that's why community is so important. That was a very long-winded answer. I'm very sorry.
No, I really appreciate it, because I see how much in the performing arts that power of community is so underestimated. They're talking about community. Outreach community has, kept this organization alive, but the true power of community really truly lies in network extension and rallying around a cause, and also the creation for the people that are really enjoying being in that community. And I know that that's the opportunity where that industry really must more lean towards too. So I know that industry perhaps isn't, your expertise or your field of like high knowledge, but let's just, from completely outside vision, when we're talking about sales, when we're talking about like presentation on Instagram or any kind of social media, as an outsider again, where do you see the opportunity for them? Where do they miss out? Sorry.
No, I see is like bringing the people to you. Like, what is your sense of like magnetism that are bringing people to you? How are you standing out? Why are people following you? What are you creating that keeps people coming back to you? Like, what is drawing them in? And maybe it's not even like a movement yet, or maybe it's not even like a sense of community, but what is it about you that is bringing people back. And one by one, that's where the community is really built, right? So even for an example, I have a fitness coach online that I work with, and his sense of community is just that he's a spin instructor and he wears these like crazy outfits. So his sense of community is just like other spin instructors that wear these like crazy outfits. So it can just be something as simple as like how you dress, or maybe memes that you share, or your personality. I call it like your isms that draw your people to you. And that actually is like the magnet that brings people to you and gets people to stay. And what it does is it brings your people to you and it repels the other people away from you. And that's what's key.
Good one. So let's just take any really organization that's out there. When 2020 came along, they were all of a sudden faced with not being able to be in front of the community because they hadn't really built in an online community. Okay. And then we saw everybody was doing the same thing and nobody really got anywhere. So when we're taking part, let's say a ballet company, for example, what do you think could be some of their isms that they could talk about? And let's put aside that they may be afraid of showing their authentic self. But what kind of isms could they actually put out there that could attract more people that are, not just bunheads?
Yeah. Do you call them bunheads?
I do lovingly, but I was one too, honey.
You're so cute.
Oh,
yeah. So it's like, what is it about you that sets you apart? Like maybe it's your morning routine. Maybe you have a love for something that's just really different. I had a client one time that was like obsessed with magnets. This is like super random, but she was like obsessed with magnets. And she always talked about her magnets on her Instagram stories. And then it was funny because as people went out and they were shopping, they would start to tag her in their magnets. And that became like a thing. And then guess what happened? More people followed her because they were like, what's the thing with the magnet? Because as Susie would tag her in magnet stories and Jill would tag her in magnet stories, it would be like something really weird. One of my old mentors and friends, Kelly Brock, she was like obsessed with the peace sign. So that just became like an ism. And then people, would connect with her over that. I mean, there's so many things. And I encourage you, like, if you're listening to this episode, write down like some unique things about you, because that's actually what makes you stand out like in this space. And a lot of people don't like to share like their personal things. I mean, even me, like I don't put a lot of my real personal life on there, but I know last year, for an example, I did like a bunch of stories because I like never make my bed. And I had more conversations about like never making my bed that led to like other conversations, but it was just something so random. Like, who else doesn't make their bed? This is a great ism. I never wash my hair. This is a great ism. I never wash my hair. So I have so many people that are like, hey, Jill, I'm on like day 8 of not washing my hair. Or like, Jill, you washed your hair today. Like, so that little ism becomes like a conversation starter. And then it opens the door for something else down the road.
Well, and it builds trust, right? And we can relate to the other person because, hey, maybe I'm not just the only one. And that brings back the sense of community that is so innate in us.
Yes.
Like we were always living in communities and tribes, and we need that sense of belonging to something bigger than us. So thank you for this. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit, my love. And if this is not okay to talk about, we'll cut it out. You went through a little bit of a health scare last year.
You can totally talk about it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. No need to cut it out.
Like I'm going to anyway, so.
Okay, what came up for you during that time?
Yeah. So a lot came up for me that time. One that came up for me was, as an entrepreneur, it's scary because you're creating your own income. And what if I can't work? What if my clients fire me? What if I can't show up on my coaching calls? I'm not married, so I was always nervous. Like, what if I can't pay my bills? Fear of the unknown was a huge thing. I have this team I have to pay. I have clients I have to serve. That was a huge fear of mine that came up during that time. Another fear that came up was, am I ever going to be back to normal? Am I always going to be like this now? And even now, you and I just had this conversation. I have gotten a good bill of health. I've gotten a good clear, and I'm still fearful to do some things. So I think that now I have this fear around it, but it's interesting. I just had this conversation with our friend James Dunn, who I know you know, is once you attach yourself to like an identity. So I had a brain injury. For those of you guys that are listening to this, I had a brain injury. And once you attach yourself to that identity, it's really hard to shift yourself that that's not who you are anymore. So it's like, okay, I'm past that. I don't have that anymore. But like, I know you asked me the other day, like, can you fly yet? And I was like, well, I don't know if I can yet, because you are like still identifying yourself with that old thing. So again, going back to like those shifting those patterns and shifting that mindset, it's a struggle.
Okay. So I think it's not only where we're attaching ourselves to that version, and we're also are so attached to what we went through that the fear of going back there holds us actually back from releasing that all part of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that doesn't only go with like injuries and athletes or dancers have that same thing. Like they attach a certain moment, like, you know, your Achilles snaps on the stage.
Yeah.
Now, what goes on in your brain when you first step on that stage again is, oh my gosh, is this going to happen again?
It's going to happen again.
Versus, and then it's going to happen again, you know, or something else happens. It's just because we're looking for it. Our brain is, you know, functioning that way. Why is it so hard to lean into the other side? Because there is fear and then there's possibility. And we so often attach ourselves more into fear than into actually possibility.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the $1 million question. I don't know. Because even I just had this conversation with my doctor. I said, well, what if I fly? So my daughter lives in Myrtle Beach, and I actually just bought a ticket to Powerhouse Women in Arizona, and I haven't booked my flight yet, but I bought the ticket to go, but I haven't booked my flight yet. Yeah. And I said, well, what happens if I go and something happens? And he said, well, what happens if you go and nothing happens and you actually have a great time? And now you've broken the fear. And now you realize that you can travel just fine instead of being in this like fear for the next year, 2 years, 10 years, or possibly the rest of your life. And you miss out on all of these amazing things because you're like living in this fear. How about if we just go and rip the Band-Aid off and you're fine? And actually, we even had a conversation too, because I live in Michigan. And I said, well, what if I actually just take a trip to Chicago first? And then if something happens, I can drive back. And then I'll take one to like Florida. And then I'll go to Arizona. And he's like, no, why don't you just go to Arizona and realize that you'll be fine? So yeah, I think it's a total mindset thing. And I don't know why we almost like want to stay in the fear instead of just being like, well, it would be great if I just went. I don't know.
Well, we stay in that fear because survival is certain, because we don't know yet what's on the other side in the possibility, because we haven't trained the neural pathways in our brain yet. And that only comes with taking that big leap. And I love how you wanted to negotiate with your doctor. And you know what? We all do that consistently. We try to negotiate ourselves into safety, to staying in the limits, to stay in the comfort zone, to stay in the fear, versus trusting that the possibility is actually where the growth is where we're going to figure it out. And worst case scenario, is that what we can deal with, right? Is that what is going to be okay for us?
Right. And he even said that too. He's like, worst case scenario, you go, you have some vertigo. We now know what the issue is. Part of what happened last year was like, you went through 7 months of not knowing. We already know the issue. You come back, we knock it out, and you're fine.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. So
but I don't want to hear this.
I'll be in Arizona. I don't know.
Excuse me. Yes, you will be in Arizona because you already bought your ticket, lady.
I did buy my ticket. I haven't booked my flight yet, but I booked my ticket. I'm halfway there.
Halfway there. Good job. Inch by inch.
Yes.
Do you think, and well, I know the answer, but that fear, and we have like scratched the surface a little bit. all those fears, identifying them, leaning into them, and rewriting the fears, even when we're having them around sales, right? So let me back up a little bit. What I'm seeing in performing arts is that money is bad, profit is bad. We're not here to make money. Arts is not supposed to make money. And I disagree. Like,
Sure.
Let's start with, why is making money good? Question.
I always say that, like, when you make good money, you can do great things. I mean, that's one of our mentors says that all the time, but it's rewriting that. It's flipping the script of like, what can you do with this money? Not all money is made for evil. So I always like to say is like, attach why you want to make money to the why. Why do you want to make money? What can you do with it? Is it, to be a giver? Is it to help your family? Is it to raise your kids differently? Is it to change generational habits? Like, what is it? And really think about, why you want to make money. And if you write that list down, I can probably guarantee, if you're listening to this episode, there's nothing evil that you're going to do with that money when you get it. So it's like, it's not going to be bad, but it's like, once you really write it and attach yourself to why you want to do it, it's really flipping that switch. But I think that it's just that mindset that's been put into us for so long. I always say that, like, when you make good money, there's so many like great opportunities that can come from it. Whether it's buying, and it doesn't have to be millions of dollars, whether it means that you can, like I always say, I love that I make X amount of dollars, regardless of what it is, so that when I go out, I can tip really well. That's like one of the things that I love to do. It's like what I love to do. I love when I go out and I can tip, 100% of my bill or 50% of my bill. And I look at their faces and they're like, wow, thank you. I went to a diner last week. Great example. I went to a diner last week. My bill was $9 and I left him 20. And he was like, thank you. And it was like, just being able to leave someone $20 is like why I like to make good money, right? Being able to buy somebody a Starbucks, being able to send my daughter, $100 for groceries. Like, it doesn't have to be like huge things. And if you attach yourself to the good things that you can do with money, then it feels really good to make money.
I think we underestimate, or we haven't even really unearthed yet what money really is. And it's a tool. It's neither bad or good.
Exactly.
It brings out in the people that are having it, whoever they are, and they're shining and bringing it to the surface.
Yes.
I really truly believe in that. And we're shifting so much our blame towards this paper bill, and it has absolutely nothing to do with it.
No. And
when we're talking about sales, I feel that that's where the journey starts. What is your relationship actually with money? Yeah. Do you believe it's bad? Do you believe it's bad making it? Well, then I will tell you, you're never going to make any, because it's not going to come to you.
No, that's the conversation that I always have with a lot of my clients when we start. It's like, if you want to sell a coaching program, again, I don't care if it's $1, it's $100, or it's $1 million. Where is your money mindset thermometer? Where are we at? Because there's probably a reason why we have this stigma around it, or why we have this block, or why we're afraid to ask for money. Like, I have a client right now, and obviously I'll keep her name confidential, but she just has such a bad money mindset. So she has such a hard time offering her prices, and she's always like afraid to charge, and she's phenomenal. She's unbelievable at what she does, but because she has a bad money mindset, she has a hard time charging. So it's like, we have to rewire that stuff, and we have to work on her own money mindset, because again, she's never going to be able to charge, and she's always going to be devaluing her own services, because she's actually making judgments for other people that aren't even there.
Let's talk about self-worth, because you just like cut into something a little bit there. Seeing that particularly in performing artists, that the expectation is that they have to work for free, because they don't know really what they're offering and what kind of value their offers have, what they bring to the table. What are a few things that you would suggest for, let's say you're already aware of that behavior, that one could do to shift that undervaluing oneself? And then what are, I would say, the outcomes perhaps of when we actually really truly undervalue ourselves?
Yeah. So one is I would encourage you to really work through where it's coming from. Like why do we have, and I want to preface this with like, I'm not a mindset coach. So I'm not the mindset coach, but I definitely work through like some self-worth issues because I definitely believe that they are tied to your pricing. So again, if you have self-worth issues, you're always going to struggle with how you price, how you offer, how you close, all of those things. So that's where my zone of genius is, but it's not like the mindset stuff. So when you have self-worth issues, that's where it's really coming from. So I would really encourage you to kind of look to where that's coming from. And are you making decisions for other people? Like, are your own self-worth issues, are you already making decisions for somebody else? Like, am I saying, well, because I don't have an education or I don't have 3 letters under my name, nobody's going to pay me? Or because I hear this all the time. Well, Jill, you have 22 years of corporate experience. So of course they're going to pay you. Nobody's going to pay me for that. That's you putting that out, not somebody saying that. So I like to make like a little table and put the fear at the top, write the fear at the top, and then make like the legs, anything that you can actually make like sustainable to hold up the fear. And a lot of times we have no facts that actually hold up the fear. So that's like a great little practice because it's most likely just feelings. It's not actual facts when it comes to those like limiting beliefs that I call them.
And what does it cost us?
It's costing us money. It's costing us time. It's costing us energy. It's costing us working with our dream clients. It's costing us showing up for ourselves. It's costing us probably frustration. It's costing us spinning our wheels, so let's just take self-worth for an example with pricing. If you're struggling with self-worth and you're struggling, which is then relating to pricing, maybe you're working with clients that are draining you. Maybe you're working with, clients that you're not in alignment with because you are now struggling with self-worth. So then you're struggling with, maybe lower paying clients, which is then, struggling with maddening things. I have another one-on-one client. Great example. And I know you know her, so I'm not going to say her name. So it's a great example. She struggles with pricing herself at her value. So because she struggles with pricing herself at her value, she has all of these clients that are like running her ragged. She's working all these crazy hours instead of owning her worth, charging higher, and just working for like 1 or 2 people and being in total alignment and harmony. Would make so much more sense, but it's not about the pricing and it's not about the work. It's like the inner stuff that hasn't been done yet. So she feels that she has to do all this other stuff because the inner work hasn't been done yet. So that's what it's costing you. It's costing you frustration, overwhelm, feeling you have to answer your phone all the time, feeling you have to be on call 24/7, feeling like you can't take a break, because that's actually what it's costing you.
Mic drop. Oh man, I can so relate to that.
Yeah. Or like your self-worth. So like your phone's going off and you're like, oh my God, I got to answer this client right now, or they're going to fire me. No, that's what it's costing you when you really struggle with those like self-worth issues. Like I have clients that texted me this morning yet, and because my self-worth is high, I'm like, I'll answer them when my day is done.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jillian. Okay. Well, what are you offering right now? What are you doing right now? And where can people find you?
Yeah. So one, you can find me on the gram. Come over and be my bestie and come in my community and hang out and let's be friends. I love to just get to know people and get to know you in my world. I'm offering lots of fun things. So again, I always say like you can work with me from, low ticket to high ticket. One of the things that I love to talk about is I do just like 1 hour strategy sessions. So If you're someone that's just like, hey, I want to get my feet wet and I want to just get to know her and see what she offers, I do 1-hour strategy sessions. It's a great way for me just to look at your business from like a bird's eye view, see what you're missing, and we can just kind of dive in. I love that. I have lots of different coaching programs. And then I actually have a sales and social mastermind program right now where I mix my two favorite things, which is sales and community. But again, come over into my world, say hello, get to know me, and we'll see what is a good fit for you. I also have lots of free stuff. I have a free Facebook community. I have a free networking group. I have a free text list. So again, whether it's working with me for free or in a paid community, I love to just get to know people.
Coffee chat on Sundays.
Coffee chat on Sundays. It's my favorite thing. Come over and say hi. Get your husband there. Get Gordy to come over.
Yes, we talked about this. So we'll be there on Sunday. And 6 a.m. for us is like, okay.
Well, trust me, 9 a.m. is hard for me sometimes. I could never do it at 6 a.m. I'm like, for those of you guys that get there at 6 a.m., I'm like, you're better than I am at this thing.
There you go. My love. Thank you. Thank you for being always a straw that I can attach myself to.
I love you.
Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for showing me that girls aren't mean.
No mean girls here.
No mean girl there. No, listen, everybody that has had experiences with mean girls, it's time to just let it go. Just let it go and find communities that are really truly filled with people that are not talking about other people, but talk about solutions. And that's what we're doing. So thanks for being in my world, my love.
Thanks for being in my world. I'm so glad that you are. You're absolutely one of my favorite humans. And I absolutely love you.
Thank you, darling.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Make sure that you follow Jillian. Her Instagram is hilarious and informative. So in a good way, like it's engaging. You just got to do that.
Thank you.
Whatever resonated with you today, we would love it if you tag us in your Instagram posts, on your TikTok, whatever your personal social media highlight form is. Subscribe to this podcast and share it with somebody who needs to hear this message today. We're sending you so much love. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.